Hello, welcome to this video. So we'll basically follow the requirement provided to us by ALX, right? So we just basically have to clone some other person's repository and try to make improvement or modification if case may be. So I don't know. So we're going to find out in a short while. So let's just, kickstart the video. So right now it says for this project, you will have to this code base, right? So I just have to click this and it gets me to GitHub, obviously. And how can we clone or fork some other person's repository? We just have to come over here and copy this SSH, right? Then we'll have to go to our terminal and do git clone, paste the URL, and cloning into AirBnB Clone. Let's give it a sec. I don't know why it's taking the ages. Okay, but now it's done. All right, now we can get inside of it and try to see the files. Okay, we'll have the authors, the readme, the console, the path. And remember, you have to add your name over here. So I'm not adding my name. You have to also add your name over here, right? So remember to do that. Don't forget. And aside from that, you also have to update the readme if there's a case for that. But if there is no case, you can. Yeah, there should be a case because you're working on MySQL, so you have to add everything you did on in regards to the MySQL. Then aside from that, you are good. So let's quickly open the code base in a VS Code. I can just do this command code dot, and I try to open it in VS Code, and let's wait so it fires up VS Code. And right now I can get this boy over here, and we good, right? So I just have to get my face over here. So just give me a sec. And that's it. We are now in our VS Code, so we just have to start executing and inspecting the whole code base and see if we are going to understand anything that is going on over there, because we promised to do this together. Oh, are you leaving me in this critical moment? You don't have to do that. Stay with me. Believe in me, man. So we just have to start reading the code base and try to see if we are going to understand anything going on over there. But if we don't understand, we have to refactor. If we don't understand refactoring, we have to do everything ourselves. I just pray we understand the code base, right? So first thing we have to do is to maybe basically check if we have a test model, a test package, right? So as we can see, we have a test package. So we can open, we have lots of tests over here. So what we could basically just do is let's just run our test by doing Python 3. It should be unit tests, discover, then tests. Yeah. So he has 179 tests. That's what he has for this application. So let's just hope we don't break any code and break all the whole tests. But even if we do that, we're going to write our own test ourselves. So no need for the panic. But he has 179 tests for just this little application. Wow. Fantastic developer. But the thing is, just in case I want to write anything and I do Python 3 manage, just bear with me. I just wanted to point it out there. I'm working on a Django application and I've just been doing Python 3 manage for the past how many weeks. So just in case I do Python 3 manage, no, I'm still confused with the Django syntax, right? So that out of the way, let's do what? Let's quickly run our console. So this is our console, right? So let's see the console. Okay, this is the console actually. So nothing too fancy over here. It's just basically the same thing we had in the previous one. So he just did show and stuff like that, right? So let's see how the console works. Let's wait and okay. So right now we're inside of the console, and as you can see, we have some warning, some syntax warning. So first off, we have to fix up the syntax warning so we stop getting these warnings, right? But before that, let's check if we have a file storage. So we don't have a file storage, which is the file.json. But I think with route, it's going to create it for us automatically. So let's just, create something and see how it goes. So perfect. So everything is working perfectly fine. And now we have a file.json. And let's create a user. And right now the user has been created. So you know what I can do? Let me go to the file storage and get this to save properly. Not like properly, but let's add a little bit of spaces so we can see what we are doing. So let me open the file.json again and try and quit and try creating something else, maybe please. And yeah, okay, now it's very beautiful, so we can like actually see what we are doing. So it's working perfectly fine. So let's try to delete or destroy the user. So we could do destroy user, we pass the ID, fine and good, and the user is gone out of the database. So this is maybe in an application, real world application, you don't want to use the application again, you can decide to leave the application. That's basically what we just did over here, and it's working. So I mean, the functionalities is in check, so everything is working perfectly well. So I think that's like one check and we are out of it. So what we just basically have to do now is just to fix up this syntax error over here, right? And it's coming from the console. And let's try to read it. It says line 76, syntax warning, is with a literal. Did you mean equal to if pipeline? Okay, you say that we made use of is over here, which is not allowed. So we just have to change it to is what? Line 76, right? Line 76 in the console, line 76. So we basically debugging over here. So help me out in case I don't find the error. So line 76, okay, is, so we have to change this to equals. And let's see if that solves the problem. So you have line 76 the is, okay, we have to change this to equals again. And we are okay, that's done. So that's good right now. Check. So line 27, same thing. Line 275, sorry. So we have to go to line 275. Line 275. So we still have to change this to equals and try running again. What, line 283? Line 283 not equal to, that's what it's saying we should do, syntax warning, that's what it's telling me over here. I'm not the one saying that, right? So we run again. So one more to go and we good. Line 286, line 286, and we have to do this, and let's see. So right now, no more syntax warning. First step of what the debugging process. So like right now we've actually debugged one part of the code and fixed it ourselves. I mean, we deserve a clap. Give it up for yourself. You did a great job, man. So that is out of the way. So right now we no longer having the syntax warning. We can run this as many times as we want. No syntax warning. No syntax warning. First debug check. So now let's move over to code editor and try to understand the base model and see if we have to make any change to the base model, right? So let's just go to the base model, and this is the base model, which is like the model of all models that we have in the application. So we have a lot of models. We have amenity, we have city, we have place, we have review, we have state, and we have user. So all of these are our models. So let's quickly rush into the base model and see how the base model was being implemented. So over here, I want to explain a couple of things for you guys, just in case you did not do the first project, or maybe you missed the first project. But I have a complete series on that, and I can give you a guarantee that it's an amazing series. You don't want to miss out. So just in case you did not do the first project, which is the AirBnB console, you should go watch the series, and after that you can now start from here. That's basically it. Let's quickly look into this base model and see if there is a need for an update. Right, so basically over here I want to explain how this so basically over here I want to explain this init method and also this to dict method, right? I think that's the most essential part of this base model, right? So just in case you missed the video, as I said, or you missed the first project, this init method, you really need to understand how it works. So this is what is actually responsible for what? For deserializing our object. So the object that we persisted in the file store. This init method plays a very crucial role in our application, in this AirBnB application, right? So this might not really make sense if you have not implemented the first project, which is the AirBnB console, or maybe you are still implementing it. That's why I advise you to go watch that series. I went into a lot detail on how this init or this constructor method actually works. I don't mind going all over again, but the thing is, are you willing to learn? Are you willing to spend the next hour just understanding how this init method works? I mean, if you are willing to devote another hour, I can literally go over it again and again and again. You feel what I'm saying? So if not, you should just go and check out the video. Then when you are done, then come back to this series, right? So let me just quickly run through this init method. So this method over here, let's go to the AirBnB console, the first project, so that you see this logic that he's trying to implement over here, right? So I already have it open. So this is the Airbnb, just the clone, right? And this is it, Airbnb console, like just the console, I mean. So that logic is coming from, I think it was task 4. So task 4, it says, previously, we created a method to generate a dictionary representation of an instance method to dict, which is this dictionary over here. Don't worry, we'll still come back to this dictionary over here. Then they now say, now it's time to recreate an instance with this dictionary representation. So what are we actually trying to do? So you know that before you can, persist a Python dictionary, you have to first of all convert it to a JSON. I mean, our file storage is what is a JSON. So first of all, the first step of serialization is what is in Python is actually what to convert the object to a dictionary. So that's what we did over here. Then after converting it to a dictionary, we now dumped it in the file storage using the save method that is in our engine. Don't worry, we'll get to see that, right? But now the thing is that we might need to work with that data, which is this data over here, in our application. We might need to work with that same data in our application. But now, if you reload this application, or if you try to run your code again, it's going to spawn up what? It's going to spawn up new instance of what? Of the base model. But you don't want new instance. You want what? You want to still get all these IDs or all these attributes over here as what? As the attribute of the new instance that you're going to recreate, right? So that's where this init method comes in. Because now we are going to so right now we're going to get all these attributes and pass it into what? And pass it into the model that we want to create. And it's going to spawn up a new instance with that attribute rather than creating a whole new attribute or a whole new instance for us. It does make sense, right? So now it now says what? Now it's time to create an instance using this dictionary representation. So can you see class base model to dit, then recreate the class dit again back to base model. So that's when you now requested for the init with the quarks, and you now say you will use this quarks argument for the constructor of a base model, more information, blah, blah, blah. Then you now say, if quarks is not empty, each key of this dictionary is an attribute name. Note, underscore class from quarks is the only one that should not be added as an attribute. And what is it trying to say? Remember that over here we added a key underscore class, which is this over here to our what? To our dictionary, and which is what we persisted over here. But right now, when we try to reload it back to our application, we should take off this class because the self does not have what? Does not have underscore class as what? As an attribute. It only has ID created and updated at. And that's what he's doing over here by doing del quarks and he's deleting underscore class. And this might not be so efficient because I mean, the underscore class might not be present. So I think you should first of all check if it is present. Then if it is present, you can delete it. Don't worry, you get to see what I mean by that. Then after that, you now say what? You now say each value of the dictionary, then warning, created at and updated at are strings in the dictionary, but inside the base model instance, it's working with datetime objects. You have to convert these strings into datetime objects. Tip, you know the string format of this datetime. Otherwise, create ID and created at as you did previously, their new instance. So what is this saying? This is saying that remember that when we converted this into a dictionary, what did we do? We converted the created at and the updated at of the what? Of the self of the instance to what? To a string representation, which is this .iso format. So why did we do that? We did that because the JSON model actually has an equivalent of any type of data type, any data type coming from our programming language. But now the JSON model does not support a datetime object, but the JSON model actually supports a dictionary object, a dictionary, string, list, tuple, right? So before we can actually now save this created at to what? To JSON, we have to first of all convert it to string. So how then can we convert it to string? We can convert it to string by doing what? By calling the .iso format. And why do we have to call the .iso format and not just do this str and convert it to string? I mean, like take off this boy and just do this. This can actually get it to string. But the thing is that if we do this, it's going to just be a string, a literal string, and we cannot perform some certain time operations on it, right? Like maybe calculating the time difference between when the user registered and when the user deleted his application, when the user updated his account, or so like that. You get what I'm saying? But making use of the ISO format will give us the opportunity to do something like that. You cannot get a drill now, right? So now, when we now want to reconvert it back to the object, we actually need to construct it back from the ISO format back to what? Back to datetime object. That's what it's saying over here that we should do. Then our strings, but inside base model instance, is working with datetime objects, right? So we have to now reconvert this ISO format, which is a string, back to what? Back to datetime object. It makes sense, right? I don't know why I'm going over all of these again. I mean, I spent so much time in the previous video, which is the AirBnB console, explaining all of this concept. So you should go check it out, so this video doesn't get way lengthy, right? So knowing that, do we think that this code is quite efficient? So I mean, it's efficient, but I think it might be quite verbose, right? Let's just try to refactor and maybe get it to being dry to some extent, right? I think there's a lot of duplications going on over here. So what can we now do? We just basically have to comment this out, and we can say if quarks. So what are we saying? If quarks, which is basically what is saying over here. If quarks is not empty, so we are checking if there is actually quarks. What is quarks? If we passed quarks as a parameter when we are initializing our base model. So if we did something like this, maybe like, let me say
base model, and then you have the dictionary. So this is called dictionary unpacking. So let me say, so this ID is equal to the UUID, right?
So this is called what? Dictionary unpacking. So this is quarks, and that is what we're checking over here. So we are now saying if quarks. So if there is anything passed inside of the base model, and you will see this in action when we get over here to the file storage. Look at the file storage. Can you see? You will see where we did it. Can you see? This is where we did it. We passed something like that, and that's the logic that we're trying to build over here, right? So what can we now do? We can now say if there is quarks, let's just take this off. So we can now say if there is quarks, what can we now do? Let's just look over the quarks, because the quarks is what? The quarks is a dictionary. It's going to return it as a dictionary. So we can now say for k and v in quarks. Then we can now do what? We can now say if k is equal to what? Underscore class. Continue. Right? So we are checking if the key is equal to underscore class. We don't want to add it back to the object. Just continue, because the object currently does not have anything like underscore class, right? Then after that, we now have to say if k in created at and updated at and v and instance v is a string. So what are we doing? We are checking, is the key passed to what? Is the key in the quarks created at or updated at? If it is, we want to check, are they instance of string? If they are instance of strings, that means we need to what? We need to convert them back to what? Datetime object. So how can we do that? We can basically say what? We can basically say v is equal to what? V, so we have to import datetime object, obviously. So we can now do what? Datetime dot from ISO format. Then we pass the v over here. And after that, we could basically do what? We could basically call what is called set array. And we have to what? We have to say self, and we have to say k and v. Then over here, we just have to basically copy this. So this is what? This is refactoring. So now, right now, we've refactored the code. You see, we did not change all the whole code. We just what? We just did some refactorization, right? Some part of the code has still value. We just refactored to what we feel is okay for us. And this should not break the code, right? So can you see? So right now, this code and this code, which do you think is much more, easier to understand, read and understand? I don't know, but I feel this is easier to understand. For me, maybe for you, this might be easier for you to understand, right? So we are not doing any additional operation like deleting. We're just saying if there is anything like underscore, just continue. Then if we get the key, if we get the created data and the updated data and their instance of string, just convert them to what? To date time object. That is what this from ISO format means. Then we are getting the V. What is the V? The value of what? Of the key, which is the created data and the updated data. And well, after that, we call the set attribute. What is this set attribute? This set attribute is used to dynamically set an attribute to what? To an object. And after that, we are done. Then if there is no quirks, just basically do what? Just basically create a new instance, which is what we did over here. So we can add a comment and say, if no quirks, create a new instance. And we're good. And let's take off all of these and try to run the code and see if anything breaks. That's the prayer. That's the whole point of debugging some other person's code and trying to refactor. So you should what? After you have to test. So let's test and see if it breaks any code. Okay, it broke. So what happened? Okay, quirks. So yeah, we'll have to call dot item because this is a dictionary. Dot items, right? To get the key and value. Another one, continue. Okay. Unexpected indent amount. What is the, why am I out? Let's try to create user, or let's try to create place. And yeah, it's still working perfectly. It didn't break anything. And let's see. Look at place 778 and 778. Let's quit and try again, and let's create base model, and perfect. 104A, 104A. So can you see our application is still working perfectly? So now I feel this is what I personally will understand. So that's why I refactored the application. But if the other one was actually perfect for you, you can move on with that, right? So that's what debugging and refactorizing actually means. Is there a word like that? And refactoring. Yeah, debugging and refactoring, right? So that's what it actually means, right? So after that, let's move on to what? Let's move on to the str. So the str returns a string representation. I don't know why he's doing so much. Why is he implementing? Why there's so much of logic over here? And by looking at it, I honestly understand what he did over here, but I don't know if you do. But what he's doing basically is that first of all, he got the name of what he just got the object, the type of the object. Then when he got the type of the object, he did a split on it. Then after doing a split, he sliced the last element. I don't want to start showing you this with your missing code. He sliced the last element. Then on slicing the last element, he did another split. And after splitting, he just splitted by this and got the very first element, which is definitely now going to be what's going to be the name of the class. So this whole logic is just to get the name of the class, which I don't see a reason for you to do that. So you can basically just do what? Comment all of these out and come over here and just do what? And just do self dot underscore class dot underscore name. And this should not break the code. And let's try it and see. Create user. So it's still working perfectly, but where you have to see this is maybe when you create an instance of the base model, right? So let's quickly create an instance of the base model. So you see where this comes into play. So maybe let's just use laser touch test file.py. Right, so let's come over here and do from models.base model import base model, then we do model is equal to base model, then we do print model. Right, so this is where we have to now see the string representation. So let me just first of all comment this out and just pass. So we had CLS over here, which is this over here. So let's just run the Python tree test file. So this is what he wanted to do. He just needed to get the name of the class. Look at it. He just needed to get the name of the class, which is what ALX told us to do. I don't know where they talked about that str. Okay, look at it. So this str should print the class name, the ID, and the dictionary representation. So he was just trying to construct that class name. He's just trying to get the class name. That's why he implemented all this logic. Can you see it has a square brace over here? So this is what he did. But there is no need for this so much logic. I mean, you can basically just come over here and call self dot underscore underscore class dot underscore underscore name, right? And this should not break the code, and it's still working perfectly fine. So can you see it's still working perfectly fine? So that's refactoring. You have to read, see what the person did, and try to refactor to what you can understand. So that's basically it. Then after that, we just go to the dictionary. So the dictionary, this should just return a dictionary representation. So I think we should just leave this. But I can see over here, he needs the name of the class again, and he basically did the same logic. So what we can do is let's just try to refactor this to the simplest form. So we could do to JSON, and we just call self dot dict dot copy. And why do we have to call the copy? So that any change we make over here will not affect the original model. So that's why we're calling dot copy. Then we just have to comment this out, and over here we just have to do to JSON underscore underscore class is equal to self dot underscore underscore self dot underscore underscore class dot underscore underscore name. Then just have to say to JSON and just return this to JSON. And I mean, this looks more cleaner, right? Anybody that's new to the code base can actually read and understand what you did. So there's no need of plenty logic, right? And I can back that up and like show you something. Then we'll do import this. And it says, well, this design of Python by Tim Peters. It says, beautiful is better than ugly, explicit is better than implicit, simple is better than complex. Yeah, simple is better than complex. So I don't see the reason you have to implement this whole logic just to get a class name. You can basically do this. And anybody reading the code base would, okay, we are getting the class name. And over here, why doing the to update and all of that, and also getting this for the name? You can just call self.dict, which returns a dictionary representation, then call the dot copy, which gives us a shallow copy of the dictionary representation, and you just add the class to it, and simple, and we are done. It makes sense, right? And that's everything we need to refactor in this base model. So I had to get back all the code that we refactor, because in real world you don't want to just like delete the code immediately. How about something goes south, right? So you just have to maybe like comment it out for the meantime, and maybe when you show that everything is in check and there is no how it's ever gonna go south, that's when you have to maybe not delete it. So that's why I just like got them back, and so maybe after everything we just have to now delete them. But for now we're done refactoring this. So let's go over to the file storage and see if there is any need to refactor the file storage. Then that's basically everything about this base model. So I think it's pretty clear right now. So we just went from this to this little code over here, and this and this and that, right? So now let's go to the file storage. So welcome to the file storage, right? So let's see if there is any need for an update over here. So I think the file storage is pretty clear. So one thing I can actually cite is that he's importing inside of a function or a method, which is a pretty bad design. You don't ever want to do this in your application. So why is he doing something like this? So he's doing something like this because he's trying to avoid a circular import, which basically means when two models depend on each other for functionality, right? So for us to avoid it, you have to like delay the import, right? But this doesn't make any sense. Why avoid something? Why not learn how this circular import works and try to master it and know a fix up on it instead of avoiding. How long are you going to avoid it for? So for that, I created a separate series on that, explaining what every single thing you need to know about circular import. I'll put a link in the description below, but I'll just fix this up and be good. So let's just copy all of these and separate the code, the method logic from import. It does not make sense to have an import instead of a method. So anybody reading this will know, okay, this is just for reload. And over here, once somebody gets the application, he knows, okay, these are all the imports this application needs, right? So we just have to paste this over here and paste this and get this boy. And let's just make this what? Let's make this a class attribute instead of passing it inside of our method, right? So let's just save. So we're good now. So I think this code is now looking pretty solid. So right now we have all of our classes or all of our models as a class attribute. Then what we can now do is we can now call self dot over here to access it. And we're good. So if we run our code, let's check if anything broke. Dot console. Too many values to unpack for K and V in Quarks. I thought, okay, that was because when I wanted to get this back, so that's when I forgot to take it out. Alright, so we do create, place, and it works. Let's check our file storage. And yeah, it works. So we have EBFCD and this is EBFCD, right? So that means everything is working perfectly, so nothing broke, right? So we're good. So let's see if there is a need for an update. So this new method, so it's pretty straightforward if you're advanced, but if you're not advanced, what we actually needed is, so we just needed to construct a key. So this key should just be like this. So we have obj dot underscore name, obj dot class dot name, then we'll have to say obj dot id. So that's this id over here, this id. So we're trying to construct this, so we get the name and the id of what, of the model, right? So we get it, then we just have to what, assign it back to what, assign it back to the object. Then we'll have to pass the key and we'll pass the obj. So that's basically what we're doing. That's basically what he did over here, right? But he just did it in a straight line. So if this is easier for you to understand, I mean, you can go for it. But if this one is easier, you just know that you have a key and you're passing it into the dictionary and you're getting the whole model as the value. Makes sense? Then after that, let's go to the save method. So the save method, I don't know the reason why it's still calling this update. So we could just basically get a temporary variable and call a self dot object. So since we know that this object is actually an internal storage and it's having the models for us, it's having the models in it, right? So we could just iterate inside of the object and get this done, right? So let's see if anything actually broke at that instance. We could do create user and check our JSON and user dot 23f. So still working fine, so nothing broke, right? So the last thing is this reload method. So this reload method is very, very clean and straightforward. So if you're an advanced developer, this is a pretty solid line of code. He just did everything in a single line. I mean, I never even thought of going through this route during my own days, but this is very, very valid and solid if you are an advanced developer. But if you're not an advanced developer, for the benefit of doubt, you can check out my video and see how we did it. I forgot the class name. We now instantiated the objects. Then we now did the dictionary unpacking and blah 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 before we now saved it back to the object and reloaded back. But this is very, very solid, so I don't need to touch this reload method. It's very, very solid. But if you don't really understand this, you can now watch the video and understand the logic of this reload method. I'm not going over it. Then after this, let's quickly go over to our console and see if we will make an update over there. So welcome to the console part, right? Let's try to understand this console and see if there's a room for improvement. So first off, just looking at this prompt over here. Do you know what this prompt is? It's actually determining if our terminal is in non-interactive and interactive mode. And you kind of know why I'm laughing about non-interactive mode. You know, right? If you did the simple shell, oh my god. If you did the simple shell, you will know why I'm laughing about the non-interactive and interactive when I made. It was simple head and not simple shell. Because this non-interactive mode stuff, it really dealt with all of us. And right now we still have non-interactive mode in Python. We thought we actually, overcame this non-interactive stuff in the days of C. But right now in Python, we still working with what? ISAT or ISAT, whichever way you want to call it. So, we just have to embrace it. So what it's basically doing over here, it's very straightforward. So this is a ternary operator, right? It's just ternary condition or something like that. But what it's doing is it's checking if it's in interactive mode. If our terminal is connected to TTY, it just outputs HBNB. But if it's not, it just gives us an empty prompt. Let me show you what I mean by this. So right now we could do dot console. Right now, if we do dot console, and we could just do like create base model. So you see right now it just has HBNB, right, as a prompt. But if we pass, or if we pass an argument and like pipe it, so this is like actually called piping, which is basically how ALX always like test our our work. So I can do create base model and I pipe it to what, to dot console. So at this instance now, so this is called a non-interactive mode because we are actually passing we are passing what's it called? We are passing the result of the left command to what, as. So this is called a non-interactive mode. So this terminal is receiving an so this terminal is actually receiving, oh god. So this terminal is receiving input in non-interactive mode, right? So we are getting the output of one command, which is the command at the left, and we are giving it as an input in the command in the right, in the right part. So this is pipe, right? So now we could just do hit enter, and can you see just give us an empty prompt. So right now I can basically go over to the console. And to show you what I mean, over here I could just say Kelly Chuku. So that's what it's doing basically. And you see now it's an empty prompt. Let's try to do it again. So can you see now it now gives us Kelly Chuku. So I could just put this over here. So can you see now it now gives us Kelly Chuku as the prompt. So this is just an ternary operator. You can literally do this by saying if ISAT and something like this. If ISAT, you just want to give this as the prompt. Else, you want to set the prompt to what? To an empty space. And we could take this off. Just in case you're not familiar with what the ternary operator, and this should also still work fine. And it's still working perfectly. If we do dot console, it's still working, right? But I feel I prefer the first one. This is quite verbose, and this is like straight to the point. You get what I'm saying? So that's it for this prompt. Just in case you're not familiar with this, I just needed to explain this for you. Then aside from that, you just have to refactor. Maybe refactor, I think refactor might be the best word. So we're not changing any code over here. I know there's a lot going on here, but this is actually if you did the advanced tasks. But if you did not do the advanced tasks, don't worry about all of this. I think it's not quite necessary. We are only interested in the commands, which are the create, the show, the destroy, and the rest of them. So what we can actually do over here, I just have to fix this, just to get this, to display better. I think I might just have to take this over here and do this like this and maybe take this off. So I think this is actually quite appealing to the eye right now. Then I might just have to copy this, my boy, and paste it here. So I know all these are like up here, and this is where our main logic starts. And I just have to copy all of these to the downmost part of the code. So I have to just pause, and after fixing, we can start, right? So what I just did, I just copied all of those advanced tasks, right? And I just got them at the downmost part of this CMD module. So I just named it advanced tasks. So I think There's a lot going on over here, which might not really be necessary for you at this point. So let's just, isolate them from the regular commands that we'll be working with. So we just have the create, the show, the update, and the destroy, in linear order. So we can basically start working with them in the next video. So in the next video, we'll delve straight into I think the first task, which is console improvement. So in the next video, we're gonna improve this console from this to accepting multiple commands. So if you want to see that in action, roll over to the next video.